2, 1. What's up, everybody? This is the Daily Fantasy NFL Show here on InsidersTV, sponsored by FantasyElite, the app that you can get in the App Store. My name is Soccer Dave, David Kitchen. Joining me, Evan Silva from Roto World, and then Mr. Tuttle 05. You might know him as the Player of the Year last year for DFS NFL. And also, Davis Maddock. You might know him as the guy who said to fade Heath Miller last week.
Heath Miller is a matchup nightmare for zone defenses. And
okay, Davis, we have to start off there because Evan told me that he wanted to give you crap for you doing the nah wave to Heath Miller last week.
Davis just completely wrote him off. Didn't even listen.
Well, I mean, what did he do? Did he catch a touchdown?
Didn't even let me. He went 10-85-1, Davis.
Oh, well, I played Jimmy Graham. I played Jimmy Graham in all my lineups, so I wasn't really paying attention.
Hey, that went unnoticed by me too. Holy crap!
Yeah, I had no idea.
I had no idea.
Travis Kelce and Jimmy Graham were the top two options last week. Evan, did you see that Travis Kelce and Davis Maddock have become like pretty much best friends on Twitter?
Yeah, it's like starting to get a little weird.
I mean, everyone wants to say that it's weird, but like at the end of the day, like Travis Kelce's tweeting at me though. So like, at the end of the day, like who's really weird, right?
Oh, the best part of the automatic absolutes this week on Fantasy Insiders was his write-up about Travis Kelce. He says, I have Kelce ranked as the #2 tight end in all fantasy going forward, so I will have him in a ton of lineups. Plus, he tweeted at me, and we are best friends.
Yeah. So what you're getting with my write-up every week is the most unbiased analysis in the industry.
All right.
Pretty much.
Can we start with tight end talk? Because that's kind of where we start every Friday show with the tight end talk. You've got Jimmy Graham as an option. He's not the highest price tight end over there at FanDuel, and he's people might be off him after his performance last week. You got Kelce on DraftKings, who's just going to be a chalk play for the Millionaire Maker, the big event they have over there. And then you have a guy that Tuttle talked about in his article is ASJ, Austin Severian Jenkins. If you played DFS college football last year, you know that name. He disappointed a lot last year, actually. But for this year, he's certainly an option, especially with Mike Evans being out. So we'll just start with the tight end position. Evan, I'll start with you as far as viable tight end options this week.
Yeah, well, you guys know that I pretty much only play on FanDuel. You guys are the big-time DFS players. I don't. It's really hard to not start Jimmy Graham at 7,900 on FanDuel. I mean, that is just that feels like robbery. And I know that a couple of weeks we expected Drew Brees and Jimmy Graham to have just a nutty week against Minnesota, and it just didn't kind of happen. But the Buccaneers are terrible in pass defense. They allow opposing passers to complete like 75% of their throws, 8-0 touchdown to interception ratio against starters. The Brees Jimmy Graham stack, I think, is difficult to fade this week. I'm rolling it out in I think 3 lineups, and then I've got like Severian Jenkins in another one for now.
Yeah, the thing with Jenkins or Kelce on FanDuel is that if you're using them with Breeze, they open up so much. Mm-hmm. Like I guess, who was it, the options that I presented yesterday to you, Tuttle and Davis, when it was Kelce, DeMarco Murray, and I forget who the other wide receiver. What's that?
Quick.
Yes. Or it was like Graham, Vjax, and Asiata. So it was just like, you can do a lot more stuff with Kelce in your lineup if you think that he's going to have a similar week to last week, if you think he's going to put up similar numbers to Jimmy Graham.
He sees a greater market share of his team's targets than Julius Thomas does. Like, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of the concern about Travis Kelce and, like, him not playing very much is overblown when you look at the fact that he's tied for the team lead in targets with a guy who's not going to be playing this week.
The concern with him is not the snap count; it's Patrick Willis.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Talk about that, because I'm obviously such a Kelce fanboy that I'm like whatever. Like you take all this into consideration, you take his price tag into consideration. I feel like he has upside to justify it.
I mean, I'm starting him in my redraft leagues,
for sure.
But on daily, I mean, first of all, it feels like he's going to be heavily owned, so that kind of, I kind of want to stay away from that a little bit to begin with. And then the 49ers are one of the toughest teams on, against the opposing tight end because Patrick Willis will run around and chase tight ends. Whereas Lovie Smith's Tampa 2 defense, they will often literally let the tight end run uncovered. They literally won't cover him on a lot of plays.
Yeah.
So,
that was the
matchup,
remember the old Chicago tight end narrative back in the day. They used to just let them just destroy them up the seam.
Right, Jermichael Finley used to smoke them.
Yep.
And the defense is really bad this year in Tampa Bay. It's real bad. So yeah. I think what's the difference? Like on FanDuel, like 2,000 between Jimmy Graham and Travis Kelce?
it's like 3,500.
26.
2,600. Okay.
Is it?
Close enough.
5,279. My bad.
Okay, so yeah, I would pay up for Jimmy Graham, just going after that matchup. I mean, I don't think Jimmy Graham's going to be that cheap the rest of the year.
Yeah, I actually think on FanDuel it's a lot easier to do Jimmy Graham, given that Kelce is not the minimum, and the difference in between a minimum player on FanDuel and a minimum player on DraftKings is it's a bigger difference. So mostly what I'm talking about is on DraftKings full PPR, where you're saving a significant proportion of your cap using Kelce for the bare minimum. I don't know, I think those concerns are legitimate, but I also think that obviously against a defense like San Francisco, you're going to expect the efficiency to decline, but you're also going to, with Donnie Avery out of the lineup, you're going to expect the opportunity to increase. And so sometimes that increase in volume can make up for a decrease in efficiency.
Totally agree. And I expect Travis Kelce to have a good day. It's just I would rather go with Graham's blow-up potential. I don't think that Travis Kelce is going to blow up against Patrick Willis.
I agree with that.
And Davis, we had this conversation last night. You're taking a Donnie Avery who was heavily targeted in week 1, and therefore his stats are skewed. His targets are skewed. I think he had 11 targets in week 1, and he said 5 targets combined the last 2 weeks. So I don't think you can really say, well, Donnie Avery's absence is going to mean increased targets for Kelce. I don't think you can say that because you're not losing a significant part of that offense. I think the thing is, on FanDuel, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think Graham's the way. I've been trying to get ASJ in there just because it frees up so much space. I've been able to work a Drew Brees, DeMarco Murray, Le'Veon Bell lineup in if I go Safarian Jenkins. So that's the intrigue there. And then on DraftKings, I think if you're playing there this week and you're likely playing in the Millionaire Maker, I think Kelce's just going to be too heavily owned there to make any point of differentiation for him to be a good play there.
Yeah, and just a clarification on the Donnie Avery point, he has played the second most snaps out of any other player on their offense other than the other tight end, Anthony Fasano. So I just think that out of 283 snaps, he's played 205. So I think that if you subtract his snaps from the equation, they're just going to have to use him. There's going to be sets where he plays wide receiver. Safarian Jenkins, I don't think at all is a bad option. Glennon, a couple good things about Glennon are that he does not give an F. He will force the ball into tight spaces. The problem is that a lot of the times when he's doing that, it's to Vincent Jackson. I don't know. What do you think about Glennon and ASJ combined, Evan?
What are your thoughts on the injury?
The injury is worrisome. I mean, you guys play DFS college football, right? I mean, he's had this injury since last year.
Yeah.
That's the reason that he probably disappointed you guys a lot, is because of the foot. So
the tight end position in college football DFS is such you've got to get points out of it, and there's not a lot of true tight end producers in college football, NFL. So he's like one of the guys, along with Ebron. So it seems like
you mean Jason Morrow
and Amaro, yes. Who I roster a lot. I just don't think he's just too big and slow in the NFL. That's a separate conversation. But the injury hampered him a lot last year, and like you said, like we were expecting big things, and sometimes he was just a decoy. So I do think it's worrisome. I think that instead of ASJ, Vincent Jackson's the guy who I'm going to look at, because the bottom line is, if you want Breeze and Graham in your FanDuel lineups, you've got to have like mid-tier wide receivers, and you've got to have like, it's going to be really hard for you to fit in a DeMarco Murray. It's like next to impossible. Like, you have to go men's salary wide receivers, and I just don't feel comfortable. But Vincent Jackson, though, like, gathered up all of the targets those last few minutes of that game. And if they're smart, without Evans, even if he has two guys, you'll have Glennon just throwing up a prayer to Vincent Jackson if all else fails.
And VJax's production with Mike Glennon, if you look at it going back to last year, is real solid. There have been some ups and downs, but really good overall production. And then he will have Keenan Lewis on him, almost certainly. But Keenan Lewis is having a really bad year. So, the matchup, I think, is pretty solid for VJax. I agree. I probably wouldn't start Mike Glennon, but I think VJax is a real solid play, and he's still fairly, from what I've seen, he's still fairly inexpensive.
Oh yeah, salary's really cheap. So
I want to hear Evan's take on. We'll give you guys that are kind of priced in the same range as Vincent Jackson. I want to see kind of who you would be on. So Vincent Jackson on FanDuel is 6,700. If you go within 300 either way, you can get Keenan Allen, you can get Kelvin Benjamin's just 400 more, DeAndre Hopkins is 200 more. Are you looking at those guys first?
Oh, are we looking at Kelvin Benjamin versus VJax this week?
No, let's have Evan answer this one.
Those guys are all money. The one I like Keenan Allen. I like a lot because the Chargers are not going to be able to run the ball against the Jets. They will not run the ball against the Jets, and Keenan Allen will be their means of moving the chains. That should be an easy one. That's a real good play. I know the term due is kind of BS, but he's due to score a touchdown. My goodness. And then Kelvin Benjamin. Yeah, look at number one wide receivers against the Bears. They've been really productive past 3 games. And then who was the third one? Hopkins. See, I really like him in season long, but I'm not quite ready to jump on that in.
All he does is score touchdowns.
In daily. Yeah, but his targets have been just a little bit, the ball is going to go to
Andre Johnson.
You know the ball is going to go to Kelvin Benjamin, and DeAndre Hopkins is like, he's been incredibly efficient, but in one of these games that's going to catch up to him. I'm not saying he's a bad play. It's just I'm kind of looking away from him a little bit.
Hey, Evan, remember last week when you agreed that Tuttle made the good bet of Vincent Jackson over Kelvin Benjamin? Do you remember that?
Look, dude, I don't pretend to be 100% by any means.
I'm $50 short on that one. Oh well, it happens.
We've got to come up with this week's bet. All right. Well, we spent a lot of time on the tight end position, but that kind of it's all about like positional value and positional scarcity. And what I want to know is like some decent running back options this week. I feel like there's only like 3 or 4, and like whereas last week we felt really good about some minimum to mid-tier running backs, this week I don't feel good at all. So, Dan, I'll start with you as far as guys you see maybe on the lower end or like value play running backs. Rashad Jennings is the one that kind of jumps out to everybody. Aside from him, anybody else that you see?
I'll point out that Jennings' ownership percentage in our Follower of Fate article by Trevor 53 to 60% in double ups. This is his own percentage on FanDuel,
And that's a lot.
and he's 35%. It's the highest you've seen all year from any player. So he's a guy that you actually I rarely concern myself with own percentages when it comes to making my plays by myself. But if I'm entering GPPs or tournaments on FanDuel, he's a guy that I'm fading right away just because of those own percentages. As far as other cheap options, there's not a ton out there that's appealing. I think the biggest one that I would be able to get behind would be Reggie Bush, which is $200 cheaper than Rashad Jennings on FanDuel. It looks like Joique Bell's going to be out. He did get cleared for contact, but I think we have an update that he's not going to play this week.
Yeah, I just saw him as out on the official injury report.
Oh,
So-
really?
Yeah, so if he's out, and then there's a chance that Calvin Johnson's not going to play or is hobbled at the very least. So you could see a lot of the offense getting funneled through Reggie Bush. Even though it's not the greatest of matchups, it's going to be a volume play for him.
I feel like he's a high floor, real high upside.
Mhm.
Especially on PPR sites. Like, we made like a tournament team the other day that had he and Sproles. Sproles is just like a high, like
He's a cash game play.
No, Sproles is about as much of a cash game play as Eddie Lacy is not a cash game play. So.
Oh, does Evan? Do you want to pound your chest over Eddie Lacy right now?
Oh, he does.
This was a conversation Evan and I had preseason. You know, Evan was really high on Lacy in the preseason. Obviously, Drew and myself, our feelings on Eddie Lacy have been publicly known. I don't know. Just as a personal question, like, is that what you expect from him for the rest of the year?
To some extent. I think that the effect of Rodgers coming back healthy has not been what I anticipated it being. And the way that he is being utilized, I mean, they're not giving him 20 carries a game,
Yeah, and when he's not working as a receiver, which always is worrisome.
Yeah, I mean, look, Aaron Rodgers throws the ball downfield. He doesn't check it down, It's just he's going to be a little touchdown dependent, I mean, I talked about it today. My expectations going into the season were too high on Eddie Lacy. I don't think he's a bum like you do, Davis.
He's a fat bum.
Okay. No, he's a volume back, and right now he's not getting volume, and I don't think that they're going to suddenly start giving it to him 25 times a game. And he's not going to be a top 5 rusher in the NFL, and he's not going to catch more than 40 passes or something like that. So his value week to week is going to be pretty tied to touchdowns. In the first 3 games, he didn't have any touchdowns, so that really sucked. Last 2 games, he got 3 touchdowns, so he's been a monster. So he's going to be kind of a little bit of a roller coaster. That's okay, but yeah, I mean, like Dave, alluded to, he's going to be a GPP play in daily leagues, and he's not going to be a safe cash game play most of the time, I would think.
I think he'll be good for cash games when they're like favored by like more than a touchdown, because
Yeah.
like you know that game script is gonna work out for him. And I don't think he's a fat bum. I just think he was overdrafted. Like obviously you have to make it more hyperbolic for Twitter.
Okay, so yes, well, that's your mantra for sure. So a guy kind of cut out of that mold, whose value is pretty much all dependent on scoring, is Monty Ball. Thoughts on him this week as a guy kind of around that salary that Jennings is at as well. Davis, will start with you. I know that you weren't really high on Ball either.
Yeah, this game script is not going to work out for him. They have Arizona has a really good run defense despite all of the injuries. But Patrick Peterson can be picked on in coverage a little bit. I know he is really talented, but he has allowed 2 touchdowns through 3 games thus far when being targeted. So I think that the way that John Fox and Peyton Manning plan to attack Arizona is definitely through the air. And as long as Monty Ball, he's not gonna work in the passing game. He's not gonna get a ton of receptions. He's not gonna be real effective there. You really only want to play them when they're against sort of weaker run defenses, and you expect him to salt away the clock in the second half.
Evan?
See, I think they will whip the Cardinals. And Monty Ball will end up with a good amount of carries, but I don't think he's going to go anywhere. You know, I mean, I think he might end up with like 19 and 58. So his productivity is, again, totally tied to touchdowns. He's almost in a very similar situation to Eddie Lacy right now, and they're just not real great daily league plays.
With that being said, in the same breath, as far as the Broncos attacking through the air, Mark Gindy, one of the guys, he's on the Wednesday Player Show with us, said that Demaryius Thomas was 3% owned on FanDuel last night. 3%.
That's kind of insane.
His salary is up, and it might just have to do with kind of how the rosters are broken down this week. Like we said, like it's really hard to go min-sal or cheap on running backs, so you can't spend a lot unless you're going cheap, unless you go Eli, and he'd be a lower option. Blake Bortles, another lower option, but Demaryius Thomas, certainly a guy not heavily targeted that might win you some GPPs this weekend for sure.
He's going to be heavily targeted.
You think?
Oh, are we taking a trip down Narrative Street, Evan?
Oh, you think Peyton's gonna make sure that he gets his?
He's kind of taking a backseat in the offense, Dave.
This is what we did This is what we do every week. Every week. This is what happened last year too.
I'll say this. This is a Narrative Street that I believe in because Peyton Manning has explicitly said this stuff before. He says, if one of my other guys has a big game, I try and get one of the other guys. And Julius Thomas has had big games. Manny Sanders has had big games, had one against the Seahawks. Demaryius is the only one who hasn't had a big game yet. Obviously, I think some other real logical reasons, such as Demaryius Thomas is their best player on offense, are going to be some reasons why he has a big game. Also, he's the bullets flying guy. He is, when the bullets start flying, that's who Peyton looks at. That's who he threw the 2-point conversion to against the Seahawks. He's their best player. So I think he has a big game this week regardless.
Well,
I do too. I think Peyton's going to want to get him going.
Oh, gosh.
That might be narrative crap or whatever, But, I mean, they had a bye week to think about this stuff. They need to get their best player going. Demaryius Thomas just didn't play real well in a 3-game sample size. That's really what happened. He had 3 drop passes.
Drops Thomas.
It's 3 games, man. And he didn't play great. He actually had 1 good game in there against Kansas City. It wasn't a huge game, but it was pretty good. And he didn't play his best football before the bye. They're going to want to get him going. I think that's true.
Okay. Well, my point is that we said that week 2 and we said week 3. The same thing happened last year. So
we didn't say it week 3.
We said it. Yeah.
Did we say it?
No, we said it against the Chiefs.
David was like, oh, 6,600 against Seattle, fire him up. Use him in your cash game lineups. I don't care about Seattle. Like, it's just like, and the gross thing about it is David used my seasonal love of Demaryius Thomas against me and used, like, Jedi magic to make me think that a wide receiver against Seattle was a good cash game play.
Okay. Davis, I said it before, I'll say it again. If you think a guy's number 1 wide receiver, it doesn't matter who Calvin Johnson's going against.
It just so very much does.
It doesn't matter who
so very much
if Calvin Johnson's 6,600 on DraftKings against Seattle, you're still playing him.
No, I'm not, because matchup is just so important, and I can't believe that I let you talk me into it. It was a total pride thing.
Don't blame me for that.
What do you think about Demaryius this week, Dan? Because I actually you don't share your wide receiver opinions with me that often because it normally leads to a fight. So.
Well, no, I wrote him up in my article. I actually try to find someone in his price range that I would say I would rather play Demaryius over because I think he's a good option. I basically just wanted to get him some time in my article. I agree with Davis and Evan. I think the 3 games, I mean, it's hard to call 3 games outliers, but I really think that's what it is. I mean, if you look at his previous stats from last year and whatnot, like he had 4 games last year under 75 yards.
Well,
all
and if you
games this year have only been under 75, I think 62 is his top. It's not going to stay that way.
If you want to do that, he also had not an 80-yard touchdown, but a 60-yard reception called back against Kansas City for holding, and he still is getting he still has more red zone targets than Emmanuel Sanders. Like, I know everyone's talking about how great Emmanuel Sanders and his 300 yards have been, but like, get real.
His scoreless 300 yards.
Yeah, his scoreless. What would you guess? What would you guess? How many times do you think he's been targeted in the red zone, Evan?
2?
7. 7 times. 0 touchdowns. He's been
really
targeted
poor
inside the
efficiency.
5 twice. 0 touchdowns.
I mean, I think it's not like I'm saying he's a bad play this week. I'm the one who brought him up saying that he is a good play. What I'm saying is that the narrative that we used and that we used last year, like, let's just call him a good play when he's a good play. Let's not say that he and Peyton went out for steaks and that they're good now. Like,
I'll say this: if he has a good game, CSU Ram will be calling Narrative Street for sure.
oh gosh, you know it. A guy who also just has tremendous ability, was also drafted in the first round season-long leagues, and who has disappointed owners tremendously. Who do you think that is?
McCoy?
Yeah, Shady. Are you willing to go back to the well again this week? Like, he's kind of in that same Demaryius Thomas role.
That is non-committal. That is non-committal from Evan right now.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not. I think that Chip Kelly told us what he thinks of his running game last week when he called 2 pass plays at the 1-yard line, down by 5 points with 2 minutes left.
Well, how about? I mean,
and I know that a lot of people are saying that this is going to be the week. This is going to be the week. I don't know. I mean,
it's not going to be the week if this is what their offensive line is. No way. No way. No how.
They did get Lane Johnson back. Todd Harriman goes back to guard. You know, I mean, we'll see, man. But I'm not playing him in daily. I like Le'Veon Bell and I like DeMarco Murray. And if you want to go a little cheaper, I like Bishop Sankey.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do, Evan, because his footwork is so good, right?
I know. He's made major strides with his footwork. I mean, he averaged almost 6 yards a carry with bad footwork over the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, he's gonna push for 10 this week.
So is Sankey your cheap running back guy, or is like Kyrie Robinson, Jeremy Hill? Do you like those guys more, or who's your really cheap running back?
I would say Sankey. Jeremy Hill's just a little too risky for me, but I mean, he could go nuts, no doubt. Kyrie, is at the point where he's had 2 somewhat slow games. I mean, he went over 100 total yards. I don't know if you guys care about this, but Kandia has him in his lineup. I noticed this week.
Has Kyrie?
Yeah.
Sometimes you should know though. Sometimes Kandia does a little bit of a switcheroo.
Well, he had Sean Hill.
Sean Hill. That's Sean Hill in his week 1 lineup.
Oh God.
But he's making a ton more money than me, so who am I to laugh?
Well, either way, those are some good, cheaper options. I like Bishop Sankey as a GPP. The Browns have been really bad against the run. Mike Pettine's defense in Buffalo also last year with Marcel Darius and Kyle Williams and Mario Williams and Jerry Hughes, they weren't good against the run. So there is some track record there that they are vulnerable against the run. Wisenhunt says Sankey's going to get the rock, that they're streamlining their offense. They're not going to do this stupid rotation crap. I mean, they legitimately were rotating 4 RBs.
Yeah, so dumb. And one of those running backs was Leon Washington.
And just ripping off losses, left and right, just loss. So, maybe it's time to streamline the offense.
You know whose fault that is. You know whose fault those losses were? Justin Hunter. Justin Hunter let his... If I was a Titans fan, I would be so belligerently upset that Ken Wisenhunt said that.
Okay, do you know that, like, it's not just Wisenhunt? Do you know that, like, the papers here in town also say that it's time for Justin Hunter to step up?
He let his city down.
He let his city down.
Well, let's put it this way. Ken Wisenhunt is such an asshole that I've been put in the position of supporting Kendall Wright. So let's just get that out there.
Okay, but you also kind of take out of like context what he said last week as far as like Delaney Walker did it, we have to have other guys do it as well. Like
yeah, well,
that
have
is
a
what he
conversation
said.
with the media when you're not starting Charlie Whitehurst. That would be my advice to him.
No, like I understand that, and like he was he is like a very honest guy. Like usually I would side with you guys on this, but
you're a Titans fan.
But I'm a Titans fan, so like I see like he's saying that maybe they didn't inherit what they thought they were. Well, yeah.
Okay, we'll let Jason Garrett come out and critique Des Bryant after Romo throws 4 interceptions.
This team is
and
just
watch
not
my
good.
Level-headed take.
But Davis, I know you didn't watch that game with Justin Hunter. He's had some really bad routes.
Yeah, you got to watch the game.
You got to watch the game. You got to watch the game. I'm sure.
Listen, if his tape looks like it does at Tennessee, I'm sure he ran some very bad routes. It doesn't change the fact that he's 6'4" and can catch a touchdown over anyone in the league.
Right, but when he's taking an angle out of bounds with a long deep ball, which what he did last week, instead of staying inbounds, like he has messed up a lot. So you just got to do the nah way to Justin Hunter until he and Wisenhunt get this figured out.
Yeah, no, he's not an option for.
It doesn't
except for the millionaire maker. He is.
He might be.
Is he? Is he, Dan?
You know who?
How many starting running backs / wide receivers do you have exposure to right now? 80%?
I don't know. This is ridiculous. It's
like how
you can play who I can't do anymore. I'm at 98 entries, and I don't think I can do anymore. And we have Mark Gino Rex, who's at almost up to 800 entries in this thing.
Oh my gosh!
Are you putting in any entries in it, Evan, at all?
What is it?
There's a $1 million first place prize on DraftKings this weekend. It's a $27 entry tournament.
I pretty much don't do DraftKings.
Yeah.
Next week is going to be the week for Justin Hunter. Jacksonville gives up the most 20-plus yard pass plays in the NFL. So let's sit on that. Give him a week. Hopefully let's see him beat Joe Hayden a little bit this week, and then we'll think about him next week.
Okay, so against the Jags this week, you got the Steelers.
Oh yeah.
So
all the Antonio Brown.
Does that mean
all the Heath Miller? All the Heath Miller.
All the Marcus Wheaton.
No, stop.
I got him going in one lineup. Marcus Wheaton.
No more Marcus Wheaton. I can't. I caped up for him last week a little
bit.
Yeah,
you guys loved him. What was that all about?
Whoa.
Love. Okay.
Davis
you just pulled a Davis right there.
You totally did.
Any play that you mentioned, Davis says, "Oh, Tuttle loves him this week."
I was not on him at all, Evan,
That's
last
right.
week. I was on
You and I
Antonio
were right,
Brown
as
and Heath
usual.
Miller. So
a lot of people were on Wheaton last week, and it was kind of interesting. It was interesting.
I didn't end up playing him, but I will say that Antonio Brown. I mean, I wrote him up this week. He's an awesome play. He's gonna make stuff happen against that.
He runs like similar routes to what Keenan Allen does, and Keenan Allen had 10-135. I mean, he was like, oh my.
Yeah, just in the flow of the game too.
Last week. Yeah, the Steelers are going to be able to do whatever they want in the passing game against Jacksonville. And Heath Miller is zone defense's worst nightmare, and the Jaguars play a lot of cover 3. So Heath Miller back in the mix.
No, Evan, stop trying to make Heath Miller a thing.
Dude, what? He's like 7th in the NFL among he's like, okay.
I had no idea he had that game last week.
I had no idea. Absolutely no idea.
Like, it just completely went over my head. Well, mostly because I was just tilting that Le'Veon Bell didn't score a touchdown.
Oh, gosh. Le'Veon Bell was such a disappointment last week. If you had Le'Veon Bell and Donald Brown in your lineups, which a lot of people did.
Oh, so all of my lineups then? Like 100 times?
Didn't Le'Veon go like 130 total yards, though? I mean,
yeah, he was fine, but in the context of the week, it kind of sucked because there were some running backs who had great...
He had like Forte and DeMarco in that same tier that just went off.
What do you guys think about Forte this week as sort of a way to zig away from Le'Veon, who I think is going to be super high owned?
I think DeMarco is going to be high.
I actually don't think you can fade DeMarco while he's doing this right now. Like consciously fading a running back who's getting 35 looks a game, which is actually he has 99 carries through 4 games and is tied for 3rd on the team in targets. So, like, that's sort of elite. That's like what Foster used to do back when Foster was good.
Yeah, Davis said last week that you got to start your daily lineup almost. You almost have to with DeMarco Murray, and I think that's on the money, especially in a home game against a bad run defense like the Texans.
Isn't it kind of shocking how bad their run defense is with Watt? Like when I looked up their stuff on Football Outsiders, they are 29th in adjusted DVOA against the run.
Yeah, they'll just run away from them. You know, they don't have anybody else good.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
they got Cushing, but
I actually have some Cowboys defense exposure this week, which kind of makes me shudder. But
no, hey, listen. I mean, even if they're bad, like which they are they're still giving up the most yards per play in all of football, but they're only letting the other team run like 50 plays a game.
Yeah,
because
they're going to be up, and they're close to minimum salary. And so that's where they.
Well, you know what the shark play was? It was the Packers defense in the Thursday start games.
Oh yeah, that was
pretty nice. I don't know. What do you think about DeMarco versus Forte versus Le'Veon this week, Dan?
It's
somewhere in the middle.
DeMarco, Le'Veon, then Forte would be the way I rank them. The thing is, and I'd like to hear how you guys are constructing lineups. The thing is, getting DeMarco in your lineup on FanDuel is tough.
Yeah.
If you go with like a Breeze.
If you go Breeze, it's very. That's why I was saying like you cannot go Breeze, Graham, DeMarco. Like
because you know who the quarterback is this week.
You guys want to say Eli?
No. Russell Wilson.
Ugh.
Russell Wilson is awesome for daily fantasy because he's always priced right in that middle range. Now on FanDuel there are some less expensive options that you can use. But he's 7,600 on DraftKings, and he's so safe. He's thrown 2 touchdown passes in every game, averages almost 20 rushing yards a game, which builds that floor up. And, like, he's just not going to have a blow-up game. Like, he's not going out there and throwing 4 interceptions. That's just, like, not in his range of outcomes, really. I'll let Evan talk about the Washington defense because some of their numbers look okay, but obviously that's not who they are right now.
Okay, yeah, and while we're on that,
they're a total joke, like a joke defense. They have 11 sacks. 10 of them came against Chad Henne. In the first 2 weeks, they were number 1 in the NFL in defense after facing Fitzpatrick and Chad Henne in the first 2 weeks, and Nick Foles and Eli Manning just took them apart. Ruben Randall actually should have had 2 touchdowns last week. One of them was just a blown review by the referees. I mean, that was an obvious touchdown as far as I was concerned. And then that turned into an interception for Eli, which is just a total joke. The Redskins are laughing. They're laughable. And their team spark score. I got this from Zach Whitman, who did an article about
yeah, this is really interesting.
Scores. The Redskins have the lowest team spark score of any team in the NFL. They have the least athletic roster in the NFL.
And where that really shows.
And that's even including like RG3 and Deshaun Jackson. And I mean those, but it really shows on D. You know, they don't have athleticism on their.
It shows in sub packages, right? Like if you have a lower athleticism score, that means you're just running in just guys for sub packages on defense.
Yeah, and so they've actually defended the run pretty well, but they will get smoked, with the pass.
Yeah, and that's making me think that Marshawn Lynch is actually kind of a really good option for millionaire maker teams this weekend because he's not sort of in that big trio, but which we're all assuming, by the way. Dan, are you on board with this Washington defense is not very good thing?
Yeah.
So we're all sort of assuming that this Washington defense is not as good as they've been shown. The Vegas total, when I looked at it yesterday, had Seattle as the 5th highest team total. I think it might have moved a little bit. I haven't checked lines yet today.
I'm seeing 26.
Yeah, I think it was 25.5 when I looked at it yesterday. But that was like a while ago. That was like yesterday morning. So they're going to score some points. I think Russell Wilson, I would set his floor at like 220 passing yards and 2 combined touchdowns, something like that. Like, I just think he's a really good play against a defense that can't. They're not aggressive enough to be able to stop him, basically. Okay. I don't know. Does that just feel too contrarian to you for cash games, Dan?
No, I don't think so. And I kind of want to hear Evan's take, because I think if you don't see Russell Wilson, I think I know the second most popular guy on FanDuel is going to be Eli Manning.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to hear Evan's take on that, because I feel like I'm not as strong on Eli Manning as a lot of people are.
I've got Eli and Rubes. I got Rubes in a lot of FanDuel lineups, and I definitely hedged my Breeze lineup last night with an Eli lineup. Because
I like Ruben at 5,400, but I don't know if I can commit to Eli.
I mean, what is causing that hesitation?
Because he's Eli.
Oh, I love when Evan plays.
He's Eli. It feels. I mean, we obviously know he hit. His best game was last week. Like, there's no even getting near that, I don't think.
I love when Evan plays DFS psychologist. What is causing that hesitation?
No, I think Eli's legit. I mean, we got a 3-game sample of him playing really well now. I know that the fantasy numbers, really spiked in the third game, but he is legit. I mean, I've watched all his games. He's been great in the last 3 games. They've left a lot of yards and touchdowns on the field.
What are you seeing from him that is different in like his mechanics or his decision making that's different from what he was doing last year?
I mean, they're just getting the ball out of his hands quickly, and he's finding a rhythm, and it's just like Phillip Rivers. I mean, everybody thought that Phillip Rivers was done.
Yeah, they left him for dead.
And then they've implemented the same sort of concepts. Everybody starts to look better. They've got a running game now. I mean, I'm totally bought into them. Where the Falcons are most vulnerable is not on the outside, which is where Ruben Randall runs most of his routes. They actually have 2 decent corners in Trufant and Alford. I'm not trying to scare you off of Ruben. Trust me. I mean, I think he could have a good game. I'm starting him in a bunch of redraft leagues, but he doesn't have the best matchup. The Falcons just hemorrhage yards and points in the middle of the field, where they lost Sean Witherspoon and they lost William Moore. And Larry Donnell, I mean, this is a really good game for him. It's a really, really good game for Victor Cruz as well. I mean, I look, Ruben Randall, they move the receivers around too. I mean, you'll see Ruben Randall play a little in the slot, and they will get him the ball, on bubble screens and things like that. And I think that he's going to start making, doing some damage in the red zone, absolutely. But he really doesn't have the best matchup out of those guys. But
is Donnell going to eat?
Probably, yeah, probably.
Okay, I mean, I don't know what to make of that dude. What makes me more angry than anything is when not only do my models not catch something, but when no individual talent evaluators catch something either.
Well,
so then I'm just left scrambling.
Did you guys read that he started Vernon Davis over himself
in fantasy? Yeah, it's hilarious.
In his fantasy league, and he lost.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Well, he probably doesn't know how to play fantasy, Dave.
Yeah.
Well, obviously.
He doesn't understand opportunity cost, David.
He needs a subscription to FantasyInsiders.com.
He really does.
He always pays up for tight end, even when there are better options at running back.
Davis, at 6'6", he's over 6'6", and he's 268, and he had a 35.5-inch vertical.
Yeah. Well, I said
really good. That's better than Jordy Nelson. That's better than Ruben Randall. I mean,
get on him, metrics.
No, I'm not. I'm saying because he went to Grambling State and didn't go to the actual combine. He's literally not even. I had to go back and retro put him into my model. What did I say this on the show last week? That when he was healthy his senior season and his team passed for a touchdown, he caught every single one of them.
Yeah, I can't remember. He did.
I think you said it the day after he scored all the touchdowns.
Yeah, because obviously I had to go figure out what was happening. I had to go dig into it. Yeah.
Anyways, the Falcons' defense is what we wanted the Cowboys' defense to be, I think.
Yeah, because their offense doesn't. Well, they just don't run as much. They give the ball back more often.
So Victor Cruz.
Victor Cruz is kind of small, so I don't love it. I don't love it in daily, but I'm just telling you that he has a better matchup theoretically than Ruben Randall. I'm not discouraging you from starting Ruben Randall at all.
I feel like you are.
He's going to start scoring touchdowns really soon.
I feel like you're like kind of warning me, but you don't want to go as far as to like tell me what to do. But I want you to tell me like don't play Ruben Randall this week.
Play Ruben Randall.
Oh, well, okay. Well, you said it. So if Ruben Randall's not pan out, I will be
full bore ahead on the Rube train.
I will be blaming you. I do want to go back to that Seattle game because I'm not on Russell. I'm really not on him at all. But I do have a I will have a lineup with Percy and Seahawks defense because Percy he let his city down 2 weeks ago against Seattle. I mean against Denver when everybody was on him and his price tag. And I think not a lot of people are going to be on him. And if you pair him with that Seattle defense, then you can get double the points if he returns a kickback. So I just want to revisit that. Let's talk.
That's where the low spark scores will show up too, man, on special teams.
On special teams. Yep, great point.
Great. I mean, that's what I was like going to say.
That's what Dave was about to say.
I was about to say it, and Evan like just butts in and like takes my point.
No, it's just like that. Like so many, like that's not that is like next level fantasy analysis, but that is where spark scores would show up because that is the bottom of their roster that you're trying to churn, and if you have a bunch of slow special teamers, yeah, like I definitely have Harvin and the Seahawks defense on like I think 2 of my Millie Maker teams right now.
Davis, I would really like if you won $1 million.
And you got to take 500,000 of
I
it.
would really like. I would really like that. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, also like you sweating $1 million would be.
Dude, wouldn't happen. I would go to the hospital and like ask for some morphine and just be out all of Monday. Couldn't do it.
Oh man, seeing Davis sweat for $1 million would be like second best to seeing Steve Finkelstein sweat for $1 million. Other than that, there is no other. There's no better sweat out there. Okay, so I feel like we've touched on pretty much everything. If you have any questions in the chat, feel free to ask them. Also, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/fantasyinsiders, then feel free to tweet at us any questions that you might have. Greg Olson, still a thing on FanDuel, and this does play along with Narrative Street, going against the Bears, his old team. No.
Yeah, that's what you're getting for that. There are so many better tight end options.
I just like to aim a little higher, you know?
Yeah, like Heath Miller high. Like that Heath Miller ceiling. No, damn it, I gotta stop doing this.
You're like
10 receptions, 85 yards.
You're trying to make fun of 10-85-1.
Yep.
Well, this is what I do. I don't know if you know this about me, but when I'm wrong, I make whatever I was wrong about a joke to make it seem like it was unimportant.
It's okay.
I can tell.
All night he was talking about just making jokes about Eddie Lacy.
Yep.
I know.
Okay.
All night.
How about some cheap wideouts?
What about Brandon Cooks? I'm going back to the well again with Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what you have to say about that, Evan.
I like Cooks.
I'm on board.
Yeah, it was just a weird game for them last week, I think.
I just think he's going to be a little up and down. And that's
he's a rookie.
And he plays on the Saints.
And he's small.
FanDuel's kind of a wasteland for cheap wide receivers.
Yeah.
Well, who do you like, Evan?
Like Allen Robinson is
Rick and Allen Robinson.
Davis's boy, but he didn't really do anything last week.
I got in Breeze, Graham, Stack, Le'Veon Bell, DeMarco Murray, and then we're rolling Quick, Allen Robinson, and I started Devontae Adams on Thursday night. And I'm paying up for Denver Broncos.
Paying up for the Broncos against Stanton, huh?
He always pays up.
Over the Seahawks against Cousins?
I like home Ds, man. I do all home Ds.
No, that's totally the way to go.
You know,
he loves the home D.
Yeah, he does.
Loves the D at home. Yeah, so Quick is going to be pretty heavily owned, I feel like.
He was 12% in the Thursday game. The Thursday tournament.
Cook, and you also have Randall. And other than that,
give me all the Brian Quick against Kerry Williams.
You've got Wheaton at 5,300. if you wanted to go down that road. But
do we have a Torrey Smith breakout week?
No. I mean, maybe
he caught a touchdown last week.
Yeah, but sad.
I mean, he might be the recipient of 2 tip balls this week.
Steve Smith is gonna. He's some of that motivation that Steve Smith had last week. He's gonna pull it out of his chest in a ball, and he's gonna shove it into Torrey Smith's mouth. And he's gonna give him that extra motivation that he needs to succeed.
That's how Narrative Street works.
That's how Narrative Street works. It's like Dragon Ball Z. I think that's how I never watched.
What about Brendan LaFell or Kenny Brett as 2 wasteland guys?
No. What about Allen Robinson, guys? Let's talk about him.
Well, okay. All right. I hate to do this, man, but I watched the game rewind.
Oh! What? What's going on here?
And I don't know, man. I can't shake it that I think that there is some chemistry there between him and Hearns for whatever reason. Now, obviously, Robinson is the better player.
You saw it on tape. You saw the chemistry on tape. Yes.
What color was it?
Oh, this is the worst, dude. And this is why I shouldn't watch games, because I don't know what I'm watching. But I just like
the chemistry was there.
I don't know. I'm a little hesitant on Robinson for cash games right now. I need to see him do it with Bortles first. Does that make any sense?
No, Evan? I agree. It's hard to really trust him in cash games this week after last week. So,
except
he got the opportunities last week.
Yeah, they're having Hearns run farther down the field, and Robinson is sort of like Hopkins is not Hopkins. That's who Robinson compares to, but Robinson is like the intermediate guy, like the boring role that Cecil Shorts plays.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I mean that's true right now, but I think they called a really conservative game last week for whatever reason. I mean, Clay Harbor got a bunch of catches, and I know everybody's like, oh, he had a 40-inch vertical, but they need to get the ball to their wide receivers. I mean, these guys can make plays, and I like Allen Robinson against those terrible Steelers cornerbacks.
All right, we have.
Robinson is a way better player than Allen Hearns, and all it takes is one Bortles deep ball.
Allen Hearns got 44 yards on a busted coverage last week. I mean, he just got wide open. So, I don't know how long. I mean, he's done that a couple times.
Don't make me cape up for Allen Hearns right now. Don't make me do this.
All right, let's answer some questions. Be thinking, Davis and Dan, about one must play and one guy to heavily avoid for the Millie Maker. So that was a question. Let's see.
I have mine.
Okay, we'll just hold that thought. Oh yeah, I just saw you answer it. You have a question. Wheaton okay with the groin injury? Evan, I'll let you handle that.
I think he's fine.
Okay.
I'll look at their website, but go ahead. Sorry.
Alshon and Jimmy Graham, or Antonio Brown and Donnell? So Alshon or Jimmy Graham, Antonio Brown or Donnell?
That's actually a really hard one.
I think it's the first on FanDuel.
See, after talking to Evan, I think it's the second now.
Yeah, Wheaton full practice probable. He's fine.
Okay. Tuttle, Alshon Graham, or Antonio Donnell?
Flip a coin? Can I say that?
You've got to choose one.
I'll side with Graham.
Good boy.
I knew that was what
Good
Dan was
boy.
gonna do.
Good boy, Tuttle. Okay, Evan.
Graham side.
Oh, Davis, you're on the island. Go figure.
Well,
let's see. Dink says, please lose my number to Davis. So, looks like you guys have some patching up to do after you saying that you watch film. It's
such a mistake, dude. Should have never done this publicly.
You went to the other side, my friend. You went to the other side. So, it's hard to make those arguments about watching games is bad for DFS when you go watch games. So, all right. Must play, don't play, Davis, on DraftKings.
Okay, well, don't play should be pretty obvious, but Andrew Hawkins has scored 4 receiving touchdowns in 62 career games. A game without any touchdowns is probably not going to win you $1 million, would be my guess. So I can't imagine using him on any of my teams.
And a
Must play, DeMarco Murray. I have a very strong feeling that he will be the top scoring running back of the week and probably on the winning millionaire team.
Okay. Tuttle?
I got a special don't play for you.
Is it Kelsey?
Travis Kelce.
I knew it.
I actually think the chances that Kelsey is on the winning team are like very low.
I don't know how you can say that. I just don't know how you can say that.
Because I just think that
his price tag is so low that there's so many combination of guys. Even if he gets like 10 points.
So that's the thing. If he's on like 25% of the teams, then yeah, that's different. But I don't think that he will be. I think it'll probably be closer to like 15.
And must play for me, probably the guy I have in most of my lineups right now. Well, it's either Le'Veon Bell or Kelvin Benjamin.
Yeah, Benjamin was going to be my must play. He was the guy. That question was asked on DKTV also.
Who's your must fade, David? Take a stance. Darren Sproles?
Never.
I will not fade Darren Sproles.
He'll be on every team.
I will go ahead and say I want to say Demaryius Thomas just for what we've talked about. No, but
can we make a lineup on this show real quick? Real quick
for DraftKings? Or for FanDuel?
Evan doesn't do DraftKings, so let's do FanDuel.
Okay, let's do it.
I'll get it up here.
Do we all just pick a position?
Yep, you start, Tuttle.
I'll start with Jimmy Graham.
All right.
All right. Evan?
Yeah, he was going to be my must-play, by the way, and then my must-fade was going to be Terrence Williams.
I like it.
I like it.
Jimmy Graham, okay, look, I mean, you guys don't seem to like the Drew Brees-Graham stack.
No.
Am I picking up on that?
No,
I like it a lot.
like it.
It's just hard to make it work.
It's hard to make it work. It's like...
But let's make it work with this lineup.
Okay.
Yeah, are you saying
work.
you want Breeze?
Yes.
Okay. Davis?
Rashad Jennings.
All right.
This is like the exact thought process I've been having.
Yeah, JJ is listening to this show, like, whispering sweet nothings to us right now.
He's going to break down so soon. Probably in this game.
Yeah, probably by halftime.
Fourth carry.
All right, so this is what I did yesterday. I'll just go with Cowboys defense at 4,700 because you have to go cheap defense.
All right, you're going Cowboys. I'll go... I'm going to go Kelvin Benjamin. So we have 24,000 left, an average of 6,000 a player. Who's your guy, Evan?
Oh, Reeves had some... Rich Rebar had some interesting info on... you want to start kickers against the Jags. So let's go with Sean Sweesham.
Okay.
I think he's the cheapest, too.
Oh, miss him, Swisham, man. Don't miss him.
Sweesham at 4,800. So we've got 6,400 per player, running back, and 2 wide receivers. Is this a tournament or cash team?
I'm throwing it in a tournament.
All right, then I feel like...
Hey, can we talk about Sankey, your guys' opinions on him?
Yeah.
I'll let Davis.
I don't think like I would use him in cash games, but I think he's an awesome tournament option this week because I think Wisenhunt is finally realizing how bad Sean Green is and that you can't rely on Dexter McCluster for a full game. I also think that Locker, he hasn't done it a lot in the pros, but in college, like he was fine dumping it off to running backs. And Sankey has the agility score to make us believe that he like can be an elite receiver. I think that there's like a non-zero chance that he's like a sort of a tournament winning play this weekend just because he is so talented. And we're also starting to get into that time of year where fresh legs matter. You know, every year running backs come in week 6, week 7 who haven't played all year. And fresh legs totally matter against these defenses that have been getting banged up for a month already.
All right. I went with Ruben Randall, so we have 6,900 left.
Oh,
See, that actually brings up something that I've been pondering for my own lineups, and I'd like to hear Davis and Evan's thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on pairing Rashad Jennings and Ruben Randall?
I think Jennings is such a floor play that I'd like. You sort of what you're taking him for is you're hoping that the game script doesn't get out of hand and that he just touches the ball 25 times. I don't know. I'm not as much on Randall as Evan is, but also 5,400.
No, Evan's not on Randall.
Just as a player, just as like a player overall.
Okay.
What's wrong with him? Is 31-inch vertical?
No. I just like I think that like I don't love all tall guys unanimously, and like I sort of put him on that second tier of guys, like that tier below, you know, the Jordan Matthews, DeAndre Hopkins sort of tier.
Okay, then I would like to recant my play.
Okay.
And I'll go with Keenan Allen at 7K. I just was going Randall because he's really cheap. So this is it's really hard unless you're going like Torrey Smith in that same price range to find a guy.
This
is like the whole conundrum. Like I feel like we're gonna have to go Hill or Sankey at the running back spot to make this work.
Give me
Reggie Bush.
There you go.
And Evan's got a $5,200 left, or has $5,200 left for a receiver.
Torrey Smith.
No, he's 53.
He's 53.
Okay, so who are we talking about? We're talking about Allen Robinson.
Yep.
Who else?
Allen Robinson.
That's Jeremy Ross.
Yeah, give me Allen Robinson.
Allen Robinson.
$5,200 is a good tag for him.
Allen Robinson, Justin Hunter, Riley Cooper, who you said was going to go off last week. Nate Washington.
Dude, Riley Cooper, if he actually had a good game. He went like 658, and then if he doesn't drop the damn touchdown again, he drops a touchdown every week.
He's so bad.
I swear to God, man.
How long is it going to take before Kelly starts playing Jordan Matthews over him?
I can't answer that.
So are we going Robinson or Cooper?
Terrible.
Robinson, Hunter, or Cooper?
Robinson.
Yeah, gotta go A-Rob.
All right, and then can the three of us override Dave and go Lions D
Yes, we can.
over Cowboys?
Yes, please.
What?
Why? I don't. What? It's the defense against Kyle Orton. Why the Cowboys?
I thought we were doing a tournament team.
You don't want to pick a defense that's going to get less points on purpose.
Right. This is the lesson to learn. Just because you're constructing a tournament roster doesn't mean you take shitty players.
Yeah.
Okay, but
if you take one thing away from this show, it is that
they're favored, they're at home, and they're facing Fitzpatrick.
And they give up the most yards per play to opposing offenses in all football.
Davis, you already talked about how you want to play teams that are favored.
Yep, and that's all there is to it. If you just use that, that's all. The Lions are favored too.
Yeah, I got burned by Lions this year, so I'm not going back to that well.
All right, there we go. That's our winning roster.
Gotta go watch some more tape after this show, you guys.
I want to give away one parting word of wisdom from the kicker position. My kicker pick of the week is Brandon McManus. Because I think you want exposure.
You pick this guy every week, Tuttle.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you did this before.
I will say this.
You did this before. Tuttle, and I was like, man, this guy's like really good at DFS. And then I played him, and he got me 4 points.
I did not pick Brandon McManus before. I don't think I've played him yet this year.
I will say this. Dan has hot fire kicker takes. He has saved me. He saved me from Nate Freeze multiple times.
Freeze was a no-brainer to fade. If you're in the.
I think it's Robbie Gould this week.
No, it's Shane Graham, dude.
Okay, let McManus scored 4. There's no way I recommended McManus versus Seahawks. But anyways, what I'm trying to say here is,
I think this was a couple weeks ago.
What you want is you want something. You want a piece of Denver's offense. You want a piece, and they're too expensive. Players are too expensive otherwise to get in your cash game options. Go McManus. Be happy you did so.
No, you're right, Dan. I was mixing him up with the Tampa Bay kicker. You recommended.
That is who.
That's probably true. That is
inexplicably. I've just been playing.
Hey, no, it's because he's actually a good kicker as opposed to Nate Freeze.
I've been playing Shane Graham at that minimum price, and he's been kind, getting points a game.
I think
Murray knocked in a 50-yarder.
I think Suckup.
Dan, do you like Henry at all?
Nah.
He's terrible. Is the real problem.
I think Suckup at home, they're gonna have trouble scoring.
No, guys, we're not doing kicker talk.
And Rob
The only
Barones.
time you're taking a kicker that's outside is if it's in Denver. That's the only time you take a kicker that's outside.
Unless a former kicker,
no unlesses.
unless a former kicker passes away, and this is our first home game.
Well, here, if you want to go narrative street, we can go narrative street with McManus kicking so well and proving to Denver that they made the right choice picking him over Prater. That's pretty good narrative street.
No, that did not go well when Kansas City played Tennessee. If you remember,
but hey, narrative street only matters when
Santos
the results
did
match up, David.
terrible, and Suckup was the guy that won the game for the Titans. So, you just proved my point. So that will do it for today's show. Thanks, Evan Silva. You can reach him at Evan Silva. Read his matchup article. It is a must-read each week over there at rotoworld.com. Davis Maddock, you can catch him on Twitter when he's not watching game tape.
In the film room.
Feel free to ask him questions. And then Mr. 05, Dan Gasper.
Canceling my Game Rewind account as soon as we leave here.
You can find me trolling Davis.
Davis is like canceling your is that going to like prove something to yourself?
Yep.
Okay, well.
Yep. It's going to prove to me I don't need it.
I think
so good.
I think it's just a scapegoat for you to show people a screenshot like I'm not. Look, here's my canceled account. I recognize the error of my ways. Anyways,
TBH, I don't even have an account. I just use someone else's.
Oh man. All right, guys, that will do it for the show. We'll see you tonight on the College Football Show. Davis, how are you going to handle doing a College Football Show while the Royals are playing?
I don't know. I think Jordan and I will go out to the bar after the show. But go Royals, man. It's real. My voice is still not all the way healed from that game on Tuesday.
All right. That will do it. Thanks to our host and also to our sponsor, FantasyElite, for sponsoring the show. We'll catch up with you tonight and then again on Sunday morning. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
All right.